Mark, thanks very much for taking time out to speak with us. We're going to look to the future. If we look at innovations, what kind of things will be shaping the future of travel over the next 10, 15, 20 years? Big question.
Big question, and it's an interesting question, of course. I look at it from different angles. There is, let's say, innovation that is close to the passenger and close to the customer, that we are all aware of. We have the web developments, and we have all the mobile developments, which are really changing the experience that travelers have, not only the traveling itself, but of course how they get informed before the trip, during the trip, which gives them a very much of a comfortable feeling on what's actually going on during their travel. So I see this as innovation which is only starting off really in finding its way into the rail industry. So it's just taking off, and I've seen some interesting examples here also just before this in the technology showcases. Now, for me, there's a second way of looking into innovation, which sounds a little bit less sexy maybe, is more into standardization. Rail industry today is unfortunately, let's say, not as in air, very standardized. So it's really very fragmented in the railway environment, all kind of data formats and all kinds of interfaces proprietary to each and every individual railway operator. And I think that a major part of innovation will also need to be done at that level to ensure that in the end, systems, inventories, products of different providers will be interconnectable, and at least, or at last I should say, bring to life solutions that can really help you book your rail trip throughout Germany, throughout Europe, which is today, there's German systems, there's French system, open, they call it open systems, closed systems, so many different concepts that are difficult to marry today. And I think so innovation on that part is maybe a bit less sexy, it's in the background, and it's in the deep IT integration activities maybe. But let's say that is for me also part of innovation that will bring railway sector forward in the future.
No, very good. Looking and touching on standardization, you also touched on mobile. To what extent does this if I can speak, proliferation of devices, to what extent does that make it easier or more difficult to drive something like standardization?
Well, I think that it will not make standardization more difficult. I'm sure about that. I think in mobile you can see really how they have achieved on working more into open standards, being able to integrate content in the end into one device without having very complex and very costly work and rework that needs to be done every time you want to add new content. So I think on that level of innovation already shows that working on open standards is providing much more opportunities also for other partners to join in, and then you create a community in itself of people wanting to contribute, adding new content, making the device and the mobile environment even more attractive. So let's say this is a system, once it starts building up, it becomes more and more interesting for everyone who connects to it. So I think that the mobile evolution has really shown already a way forward, inspiring for, let's say, all the rest of IT activities outside of the mobile field.
No, very good. And what about personalisation? We hear a lot about this word. It seems to be banded around kind of pretty freely in the industry right now. If we look at rail kind of before travellers go on their trip, during the actual rail experience itself, and then when they get home, to what extent is personalisation there right now for rail as an industry? And to what extent is it kind of the holy grail, if you like, of rail moving forwards?
I think it's again a multi-layered approach. Maybe it's often it is referred to rail as mass transportation, and I don't really like the word because it's like everyone's the same.
Yeah.
There is no need for any personal detail or any personal support for a traveler, and so maybe to some extent this might apply to commuting. But even if personalized content and personalized support could make commuting a bit more interesting, more personalized, yeah, it would probably help people on an everyday basis. So I think that at least the railway industry and operators have realized that they should not look at all kinds of rail transport as mass transportation, but really look at the individual needs. I think that what I see from the backgrounds within the BeNe context and SSNCB is that also more and more attention to CRM activities, really trying to get to know the customer to start with. And then of course, mobile again provides also opportunities for customers to engage. They will be happy to share some of their personal data if they get personal support in return,
Yeah, absolutely.
which again allows you to build up a more personalized relationship with those travelers, with those customers. And I think that we're only, again, also for the rail industry, only at the start. So I think that the mindset is already there, and I think with the mobile evolution, it becomes real life and it becomes part of not everyday practice maybe yet, but it is something I think where we see in the next 3 to 4 years very quick and very quick evolution.
So in terms of the rail journey today, I mean, slightly controversial maybe, but in some ways kind of booking the rail journey is actually not that much fun. Being on the train itself can be a whole lot of fun. How can we change that as an industry? We talked about personalisation, we talked about mobile technology. Is there a kind of a silver bullet, some kind of big thing that maybe I've missed that can kind of resolve that complexity of going from Manchester to Milan on one ticket? How do we solve this pain which is associated with making a rail booking?
It is, I think it's mainly, there's a technological...
Maybe that's unfair, maybe that's an unfair question.
No, it's not an unfair question. I think that it has been a theme also of this rail forum for many years. And it still is a challenge because it is, I think, as we saw this morning, to start off this, to kick off this forum, even a trip from Nice to Vienna, which are not that far apart, is not able to book it in one ticket office or travel agency or online. Even you have to combine multiple shops in order to come up with the tickets you need to do a fairly simple, might say, journey, not even a Manchester to Milan. So I think again, it is, on the one hand, there is some fragmentation that needs to be solved, because fragmentation today means if you want to connect the bits and pieces, it becomes very expensive, and not everyone is willing to put the necessary funding into that to overcome those hurdles. That is one of the reasons why we team up as BeNe Rail with Amadeus, because when building a larger community, at least you can spread the costs over a larger group of participants, making it easier to interconnect and make it viable to interconnect systems, even if standardization is not fully realized. Second part is, I think, today on what I would call on collaboration. It's a more political topic that is not today on the agenda, let's say, of this more technology-driven rail forum. But it is a topic which is on the European policy agenda, which is that competition is opening up. It has been ongoing to some extent in the past years. But railway undertakings who had been used to working 100 years together in, let's say, as just partners in rail, our relationships built 100% on trust and sharing information with each other. Some of them now suddenly have become competitors, which, let's say, is not really helping us in trying to find the right level of collaboration to make this multi-country and multi-operator journeys effect.
Sure.
I think that you said it was maybe a bit of a provocative question, but maybe the answer is that for me, I think 30 years ago, it was much easier to buy a ticket from Manchester to Milan than today. Even with technological evolutions that we've seen in the past 30 years that have been enormous, that the level of fragmentation and the level of maybe lack of collaboration has in the end not always been come to a good result for the passenger who wants to do a multi-operator trip in the end.
Right, sure. Now, I promise I'll let you go in a minute, but final question, you touched on it. What does the Amadeus BeNe deal mean for you and also for the wider European industry? Does it go some way to trying to solve some of those issues? What's the opportunity for us?
Well, let's say in the end, that's the ambition. So we are just today BeNe Rail as a launching customer of this platform that Amadeus will build and that we will help build from our BeNe side. But of course, the idea is to try and build a community far wider than only the Benelux region. Again, with the purpose of adding content to the platform, and in the end, it's like a little stain that's maybe spreading, becoming bigger and bigger, and trying to as has been done in air before, come up with solutions in which all the operators find their place and their role, and in the end, creating indeed a platform that is easy to use by the customer, provides all the steps from inspiration to shopping on to support during the trip, etc., and that at a let's say a scale or a scope that is as large as possible, mainly in our interest, of course, for the European market, but even beyond. So I think I'm convinced that we will be able, by joining forces and joining, on the one hand, let's say, the business view that we have from the railway side with the technological capabilities of Amadeus, that bringing those two together will be an inspiration for other members to join.
Fantastic. Mark, thank you very much for your time.
Welcome.
Cheers.
Thank you.